Hello everyone, my name is Simuzeche Kalua. Welcome to this video series titled Dependency Injection in ASP.NET 6 Deep Dive. I am a senior software engineer and a strong advocate of .NET. Now, if you're following this channel, you might be surprised that we've taken a detour. We're supposed to finish our API, but I'm talking about dependency injection. Now, I've gotten tons and tons of requests from people saying, what's dependency injection? What's its importance? What's its benefit to me as a developer? What is Microsoft doing with it? So I've seen that it's pretty essential that we deal with this first. And once we've talked about it in depth, then we can proceed. So you're going to bear with me and be patient. For those who are new, the API series will be in the description. It's going to pop up. And if you're new, please subscribe. This is where we teach coding in a very fun and easy way so that anybody can understand. All right. So, without further ado, what's dependency injection? Okay, that's the question you might be asking yourself. Now, I've put a line there, Microsoft Dependency Injection Container. We just have to know it. If you want to build software using the .NET Framework 6, .NET Core 3.5, 2, and 5, you just have to know dependency injection. And you need to make good use of it. Now, one might ask a question. Why should we use dependency injection? And that's a good question. I mean, I asked it a lot. You see, all we want is loosely coupled code. All right. What does that mean? We want code that's not heavily dependent on other code in terms of its functionality. All right. So dependency injection gives you this capability. You're able to build code that's loosely coupled, and we're going to see that in code shortly. There are two things that DI gives you. One, it's what we call inversion of control. Now, what's that? Okay, this is a pattern that was designed by people that are used for decoupling. Okay, your components and layers in the system. Okay, so you're going to give dependencies to a component when you are constructing it. Okay, so for instance, it's a class. The time you do your constructor, you're going to give it dependencies. Okay, we're going to see all this in code, don't worry. And the second one is the Dependency Inversion Principle. And all it says is, you know what, they're high-level modules. They should not depend on low-level modules. Okay, and we'll see this in code. So how do you handle that? We're going to use what we call abstractions. All right, let's proceed. Now, this is my last statement before we start coding. Dependency injection is the foundation of any ASP.NET Core application. Before you think of classes, before you think of hosting, before you think of logging, .NET Core dependency injection is at the foundation. I've heard developers say, you know what, I'm going to do my applications without dependency injection. And then they start off very well, and then they realize, I need that. So, good foundations make great developers. That's why I've taken time to do this in detail. All right. So, I want us to start from scratch. From the bare minimum, we're going to start with an application that doesn't adhere to any of this. We're going to bring in dependency injection slowly. And by the end of this video series, in the 5 videos or so, you're going to be experts at dependency injection. In Visual Studio 2022, so let's get on to Visual. We're going to click Create New Project. We're going to build a basic API just to demonstrate this, but you can do it in an MVC application, in a Blazor application. Hopefully, we might do them down the line. Alright, so you're going to select ASP.NET Core Web API. Click Next. We're going to create a blog. I want to put DI there. Blog di.api just to for dependency injection. So as usual, I'm going to push the source code to GitHub by the time this video is out. We're going to leave everything as is. Make sure it's .NET Core 6 or the .NET 6. Then click create. It's going to proceed and go forward a project for you. Right, so here we are. Our plan is to create an endpoint that just returns a list of blocks. So first of all, I want you to have a folder for models. So this is where you put all your models infrastructure. Add a new folder called models, and within that I want you to add a class called block. Right, so add class, call the class block. Very basic, very basic. It's gonna have an ID. It's gonna have. It's going to have. I'm gonna type first. The title. First is relative, and it's gonna have probably content. And you're seeing that this is complaining. We could just say fine. Push comes to shove, this might get list empty. All right, that should get rid of those. All right. So this is our data model which we tend to return. Now we want to create a folder called data which handles the actual data persistence. So create a folder called data, and within that I want you to create a class called data repository, right, which is now will be responsible for the data access. So we're not going to, it's going to be called blog repository rather, sorry. So we're not really focused on database connections. We're simply going to use an in-memory list to retain that. Okay, so let's have a list as public static. It'll be a list of blocks. Okay, so a list of blocks. Let's just bring the block in. Models, list of blocks. It's gonna be a new list of blocks. So we're going to initialize like 2 of them. So a block has what? It has ID. Let's give it ID of 1. ID of 1. It has a title. You're going to call it DI deep dive. Okay. Content. This is a 5-part series, right? You'll be experts once you're done with this, trust me. And from there, we might need to have a second one. Just 2 should be enough. 2 or 3 should be enough. All right. The second one is what? I've got another course. It's called Minimum APIs. It's a crash course. You might also want to go check that out. It's a 30-minute course that you will learn a lot. And I've got what we're building with the guys. It's called, we're building it prescription. It's a prescription API. Okay. So still under construction. We're still adding functionality. Okay. Right. So we have this. This will be our data store. This will be our database in our case, right? So all we need is a function to return a list. So we're going to call it public. It's going to return a list of blocks, and then that's Microsoft autocomplete, by the way. Get all blocks, like so, right? And all you want to do is return blocks. Again, I'm not doing check-ins if it's null. It's not really the core. So this here, my friends, is our data access. This will give us whatever is there. So I've gone ahead and I've deleted the weather focus class. I've deleted the weather focus controller. So we're gonna add a controller. We're gonna call it a block controller. All right. So like click on controllers, click add controller. Don't select an MVC controller. Select an API controller. Okay. API controller, and you're gonna put read write so that it just scaffolds some code for us. Click add, and you're going to call it blog or blogs. That's another restful fight, not for today. Right, so All I'm interested in is just one function here. The function is called get. Just get, nothing else. Okay. So here's the thing. We want this controller to have access to the repository, right? So give us access to the repository so that we get the data, right? So it means all you need to do here is simple. You just have to say blog repository. Okay, so bring it in, control dot, because it's not there, right? Blog repository, code repository is equal to new blog repository, right? And for you to, and then here I'm gonna change it to, let's use RESTful conversion. I'm gonna put an action result. It's going to return a list, got an enumerable of block, right? Assuming it has block, doesn't have block, right? Yes, so control dot to bring the block in. There we go. So we want it to return, what's it saying? Anyway, let's move that. So we want it to return a 200, okay, and give you a list of what? A list of blocks. So in the blog repository we have this function called what? Get all block. So we want to return that. In fact, let me put a small letter there. Right. So we're going to say var, this is list of blocks, is equal to repository dot get all blocks. Right. Then all you're doing here is just saying okay, give us okay, and give us blocks. And we're done. So the next thing here is I'm going to test this endpoint and see if it works, and then I'm going to tell you what's wrong with it. Then we're going to start off our journey. So control F5. So here we are. Now we've got a swagger there. Click on get, try it out, then execute. And we have our data. Now let's wear our hat and assess. Now this thing works, all right? It works fair and square, but something is wrong here. I want you to look at something very interesting here. You see that in this class, this blocks controller class, there is another class called blog repository. All right, we need this class for us to get the blocks. What are we doing there? We have brought a dependency, all right, on blocks controller. All right, the word new here should show you something, that something's happening. So you've newed up another class. So for you to use the blocks controller, you need to new up a blocks repository. All right, that is what we call tightly coupling. All right, we want it to be loosely coupled. Okay, it works. All right, but the problem is it's telecoupled. Now I want you to think of a scenario whereby we have a database connection. Now there's another class that talks to a database and we want to change that. Then we have to break this again just to change that. Trust me, it looks simple here, but in a production app, that could be the difference between losing a class or even a job, because we have to build software with the idea that it has to be maintainable. All right. Also, if you want to unit test this controller here, you can do that, but you have no control over what this gives you. So you can mock it. It's hard. All right. So now the question is, all right, we have seen that. So what do we do now? All right. So as you can see, we talked of dependency inversion principle. We said high higher shouldn't depend on lower dependencies. We're doing that here, so we have to break it. We said if that happens, then we're going to use what we call abstraction. So the question is, how do you abstract? So you abstract by using what we call interfaces, okay, for starters, right? So we want to bring in interfaces. That interface is going to give us an abstraction. Then we would have done what? DIP. All right. So let's proceed and bring that interface. So I want you to go to the blogs repository, because that's where the dependency is. I don't know if you right click over there, right click on it, you see quick actions and refactoring. I want you to click that. Then there's extract interface there, so click on that. You're gonna call it blog repository. All right, okay, it's gonna be a new file, and I want you to click OK. Nice. Okay, what's happening now? We are bringing an abstraction. Okay, so what's an interface? An interface just gives you what you should do. So as you can see here, it just said, I want you to get me all blogs. It doesn't care about the implementation. Whoever inherits from it has to give it the implementation. So if you look at the blog repository here, it has inherited that. Then it gives us the get all functionality. It means if you get another class, all you do is just make it inherit. Okay. So we have done DIP, Dependency Inversion Principle, where we've seen that a higher component, which is the controller, depends on the lower component. So we bring in abstractions. So we brought in the abstractions now. The next question is, how do we bring in inversion of control? So inversion of control is when you give it the dependencies as you construct. All right. So if you look at the blog's controller here, you see that it has no controller. So the first thing we have to do here is to bring in the controller. Right. So how do you bring a controller in Visual Studio? You do ctl. It's a snippet, then double tab. It brings the controller. Right. Now, instead of you having a class, we're going to use that abstraction. So I want you to put blog repository and call it repository. All right. Now there's this quick shortcut I use. If you go on the repository and click control dot, it's gonna give you a few options. I want you to create and assign few repositories. The one with small letters. Click on that, and it does something nice. It creates for you, but it should be on top there just for this. You see? So I want you to put an underscore there. Okay. Put underscore there. Put underscore there. What have we done here? We are saying, as you're constructing a class, we're going to inject its repository. All right, which means we are no longer newing up any classes. You see, we have loosely coupled it. So now I'm going to comment out that. Then instead of you using the repository for the class, you're going to use the repository from the interface, like so. All right. Now we have broken the tight coupledness, because now we are referring to an abstraction to an interface. Okay, so now I want you to press Ctrl F5 and let's run this and see if it does what we want it to do. So here we are. Let's do it one more time. Okay, try it out. Execute. And oops, we run into an error. Unable to resolve service type. I broke repository while trying to. All right. So I've done this error on purpose so that you see what happens. So it's simply complaining that the dependency injection container by Microsoft failed to resolve that. All right. So it means we have to tell it what to register so that it can know what to return. All right. So I want you to close that. All right. And go to the program.cs class. Then you're gonna see something interesting. You see here, there's items to the container. So this is your container actually. All right. Sorry, there's no food inside of it, but this is your container. So you have to add the service. All right. So this is what we're going to do. So I'm adding my dependencies. So there'll be third-party dependencies. There'll be your dependencies. There'll be there. Okay. You just have to know how you want to separate them. All right. So you're gonna get the builder, which you're building on top there, then services, then add transient. All right. It takes in the first parameter is an abstraction. In our case, what's our abstraction? It's the repository. It's the I blog repository. All right. Then the second argument is your implementation. So bring it, control dot. Your second argument is your actual implementation. In our case, that's the blog repository. Then you do that, and let's run it one more time. All right, so here we are. If I click blog there, try it out. Guess what? It's worked. All right, but I want you to see something here. So close it up. I want you to see something interesting here. Go to the controller. Have you noticed that we didn't new a class here? Okay, we didn't new a class. It's just an abstraction we've used. So if you want to test this, it's easy. You just send a mock of that interface. You're going to unit test. If it's loosely coupling, then you see this class does not depend on another class. And I want to show you something interesting. So let's say we're assuming that your boss comes tomorrow and says, I want you to use another approach to get data. All right, so let's create another class under data. We're going to call it get a class. We're going to call it new blog repository. So your boss comes tomorrow and says, you know what, I want you to create a new repository, a new way. So we're assuming this goes to the database, right? Of course it doesn't in our case, but I want to show you how sticky it is. So I want you to copy everything from there, copy everything, and then for us to show you that these things are different, sorry about that, just bring in the blog, right? So let's assume this is the new blog goes to a Cosmo database, or it goes to a, so I want you to use here, say output 1000, so I see the difference, 2000, 3000, right? Now for us to use this class, to swap it with other class, we have to make sure that we use the iBlog repository, right? Now that gives us access. Now if I say fine, my boss says tomorrow I want us to change the blog repository to use the new blog repository, what do? Well, it's a simple thing. You just go to absence.json and you're gonna swap this for new blog repository. And if I say Ctrl F5 and run, what you will see is if I run that, if this thing can hurry up, if I say get, then I do get on post, and trust me, just like that, I have swapped my data access without touching any sort of code from the controller. So my class is maintainable. One, I don't have to break things if I change implementations. Two, I can unit test my application. So instead of me being tied up to a class, which I don't control whatever happens in that dependency class, now I can unit test. I can simply mock the interface. All right. There is abstractions. It's clear over there, and you see that the code here is very clean and concise. If I go to the controller, it's straight to the point. There's no other class coming into. So this video has been long, this video has been fun, but this is just the first video out of 5. So this is just the basics of how we bring in dependency injection. In the next video, we're going to talk about, you might have asked the question, what does transient mean? Okay, so there's transient, there's this, there's scoped, there's singleton. In the next video, we're going to talk about those life cycles. Okay, so if this gave you value, again, subscribe, share, comment, and let's do this. So 4 more videos coming on dependency injection. Thank you very much, and you do have a lovely night.